Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now we're going to have something a little bit different today. I'm actually going to do a product review. The reason I'm doing this is to introduce you to a new tool before we get into the next video, which is basic hill construction. Now it's a new tool, it's not an essential tool, it's useful. One of the materials in hill construction, and to be perfectly honest, a material that is used in an awful lot of tabletop crafting, is foam polystyrene. And while a good sharp craft knife can cut through it quite easily, depending on the kind of foam you have, it can be quite messy if you're using a knife. So instead of using a knife, the useful tool is something called a hot wire cutter. Now I have one here. The go-to type of foam cutter that seems to be used by most crafters is a table variety, where you've got a stand for it and a wire, and the wire comes down and you push your foam through it. This was actually a Christmas present. I have had a D-shaped hot wire cutter in the past that used detachable wire filaments, and to be perfectly honest, I wasn't particularly satisfied with it. The wires were very fragile. It was powered by a 12-volt battery, and the wires kept falling off the terminals and in the middle of a cut, and the wires would snap. And I think I'm on that one, apart from the fact that it's about 20 years old now, I think I'm down to about my last two filaments. So while it did the job, it is entirely possible that I was doing something wrong with it, or it was just quite a cheap one, maybe low quality. So I asked for a new hot wire cutter for Christmas, and my good lady wife got me one of these. Now she had looked at the D-shaped ones, and she had looked at the table ones, but because she's more aware of the kind of crafting style that I do, which is more freeform, she decided to get me a hot wire knife model. So I've had a little bit of a play with it, I will be perfectly honest, but I'm going to have a proper go with it and put it through its paces and see what I think. I am actually quite excited about this because I get to play with things. So there you are, this is what I'm going to be using. It's made by the Hot Wire Foam Factory, which is a Canadian company, and they specialise in foam and hot wire cutting tools and things like that. It's the knife kit. I'll leave the link for them down below. They do an awful lot of other wire crafting tools. So if you don't particularly like the look of this and you don't think it's going to do what you need, feel free to have a look on the website. There may be something else there that's more to your taste. So what do you get in the box? Apart from instruction manuals and warning leaflets on what to do and don't with the tools, there is also an instructional DVD. I've had a good watch through that stuff, and some of the stuff was quite cool. It's certainly given me a few tips on how to use the thing properly. So onto the tool itself. First thing, it comes with a power pack. Now this is a marked improvement over the 12-volt battery system that I was using previously. I don't have to worry about it losing power in the middle of a cut, or the wires coming away from the battery terminal and losing power to the wire and it getting trapped in the middle of foam and snapping. This is going to be a godsend. And it has a nice good amount of cord on it. Now this is just the power pack, so apart from the wire that's on there, the knife itself actually plugs into it, and overall I can't remember what the specification was. but with that amount of cord on it, there is no way that you're not going to be easily able to move the knife around and do what's needed with it. Okay, so brilliant design. It's the simple things that just make the difference. On-off switch in the handle. The grip itself feels nice. There's foam rubber there so that it's not going to get too slippy on you. Having a look through the videos that they provided, there are a couple of ways in which you can grip or use the knife. So the first one is simply as a knife and carving it out. You can also turn it and use it essentially as if it was a craft knife, and there is a nice notch there for your finger, just so that it gives it a little bit more comfort and a little bit better guidance if you're doing a downward cut like that. Or the method for precision work that they recommend, and I'm quite happy about that, is more of a pen grip. Now, I will be honest, the first sort of power tool that I learned how to use, because my background is electronics, was a soldering iron. So I'm quite happy about the ability to have some kind of fine control with the tool. It's a shame just on that pen grip. To me, it feels a little bit fat. I guess being used to using a soldering iron, the handles of those are a little bit thinner. It doesn't feel as comfortable as it could be. Yeah, that's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I'm sure I will. But at first feel it's not quite natural. But I'll certainly be putting it to the test. I guess it's one of those things where you've always got to make a trade-off in design, and for it to be comfortable in your hand like that, or like that, yeah, you've got to have a fatter handle on it, and the trade-off is it doesn't feel quite as natural as it could be when you're using it like that. Oh well, you can't have everything. However, on the thickness of the handle, and I'll show you this later, part of the reason why the handle is so thick, and this also brings this notch into play, is that if you need to take a sliver or a layer from your polystyrene, you can lay it flat, hold it in place, the blade becomes parallel, and then you can simply push your polystyrene across it and it will take a sliver off the bottom so that you've got a thinner layer to be able to work with. I'll be putting that to the test, but it was a nice touch. Somebody has obviously put a lot of thought into the design, so we will see what that does. So I'd better power this up and start cutting some things with it. Now, first thing, please excuse any background noise when you are using a hot wire cutter on EPS polystyrene foam. The one thing that you do have to be careful of is toxic fumes. So make sure you are using a well ventilated area. Otherwise, let's get on. So the first thing I'm going to try is to see how it copes with doing that flat cut of polystyrene off the bottom of a block, so that we can get it down to something that's maybe a little bit more manageable. So for that, it's going to be turning the power on. You've then got to allow it 4 or 5 seconds to actually heat up. just try it. Yeah, that is getting up to heat. So flat down, and what they say is make sure you don't apply too much pressure. You're letting the heat do the cutting of the item, because if you apply too much pressure, there is the possibility that you're going to break the blade, and then it's got to go back to the factory to have a new one fitted, and that is not what we want. But that was a clean cut through, and that is a nice thin sliver of polystyrene for us. And that was so easy it was untrue. So let's try shaping a little bit. That's going through nicely. Just make sure you don't get stuck to it. Obviously, with this being freehand, it's not necessarily the neatest of cuts, but since we're talking about, in an awful lot of cases, terrain and outdoor kind of stuff, then nature doesn't go for straight lines. Obviously, if you're using this kind of thing to make buildings or something like that, you're going to have to work out some kind of jig. But even freehand, those are nice clean cuts. More than happy with them. Yeah. And the smell isn't too bad. Now, one feature of this that is particularly useful, because the blade or wire isn't enclosed on both sides, what you can do is something that they call a plunge cut. Now, I'm going to swap to pen grip for this one, and let's see if we can carve into it, and there you go. Alright, in fact, pretty much got an instant crater. How cool is that? One thing I had wanted to test, and I'll try that now, just make sure that I've got a clean area, because I'm going to try another one of those parallel cuts. Obviously, when I did the first shave from the bottom, I was doing it on a cross section that was less than the length of the blade. Now, this is a 4-inch blade on this. That I think they do larger ones, but if we compare it, okay, the width of this block is greater than the length of the knife. So what I'm going to do is try a rotational cut and see whether or not I can get a larger sheet out of a piece like this. So it is the same kind of cut as last time, and that is going through fine. Whoa, maybe it's a little bit too fast. Get there, just turn the corner on it and bring it back up the other side. Turn that off for just a second. You do get some stringy bits, obviously, with more melted polystyrene, but it is in no way the same kind of mess that you get. Okay, a little bit of deformation there where I tried to turn the corner, but up this side it's not too bad at all. I'm going to try that one again, but instead of going round the corner, I'm just going to do a flat cut along one side and then reinsert it and do it back down this side. Okay, holding it flat. All the way out. Turn it round. Back through. Yeah. Let's see how that one came out. Okay. I'll have to practice with that. It's possible that I had something. It's certainly a better finish to it than the first one that I did. Maybe I had something trapped under the polystyrene, or I wasn't holding it flat enough. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of work with sandpaper. To be perfectly honest, we'll bring that flat. So yeah, and far less mess. Certainly, I don't think I would be able to do that with any larger craft knife or anything like that and get a finish nearer to that. Obviously, I would imagine with one of the larger bench foam cutters, you can do that kind of thing quite easily. But for a handheld model, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Just going to try some straight down cuts. Oh, that. Oh, that was so easy. That was untrue. I'm not sure how it would go with running it along the side of a steel rule. I would imagine that over the course of its lifetime, it would start abrading the blade. So yeah, I'm not 100% certain about that, but let's just get a bit of shape here. And now let's try that plunge cut feature and see what we can do with fine detail. I'm just going to add a little bit of paint to this so that it shows up better on the camera. Okay, that'll show up an awful lot better. That was done with the plunge cut, and yeah, that's a nice little marker stone. yeah, cool. So obviously the joy of some of this type of crafting is the fact that when it comes to polystyrene, you get that kind of packaging of pretty much everything. This, I think, came from a computer. So we'll try reclaiming some of it and making something maybe a little bit more useful. Just get it back up to temperature. Yeah, that's good. And now I'm having to go a little bit slower on this one because it seems as if the polystyrene is denser. You can actually feel the tension on the wire. And I am just letting the heat do the work. You should be able to see the fumes coming off it there. Okay, let's get it back. On it. On it. Take that bit off there. There. We'll just do a bit of freehand. Take these corners off. Some manufacturers' indentations just there, and we want to remove all of that stuff. Tighten those corners a little bit more. Come off with your fingers. Don't particularly need a light sanding for that one. I'll just bring it up to the camera. But that is a standing stone if I've ever seen one. Well, all in all, it's got to be said, I am more than happy with this. It is certainly a marked improvement on the last one that I used. It's nice, it is easy, it's versatile. What can I say? They've obviously put a good deal of thought into a tool like this, and I am more than happy to have this in my arsenal. You'll be seeing me use more of this in the next video, because as I say, we are going to be moving on to hills. But I mean, in the meantime, in the space of a couple of minutes, I've got a couple of pieces of terrain there already. With a little bit of work, they can instantly be put into use. Have a think about it. All right, it is an option. It is probably, depending on the type of work that you want to do, a hot wire cutter of any kind is certainly something that you should be looking at towards the start of your crafting career. I certainly did. Unfortunately, the one that I had was not necessarily the best quality, but this one is, yeah, yeah, I'm going to have fun with that. As always, if you want to see more, do the like and subscribe and ring bells and whatever else it is that you're supposed to do on social media. And you should see the next video in the series, which is going to be hills, in quite short order. Until then, whatever tool you're using, get some crafting in.